Welcome to our series of A Jockey's Life in and out the saddle. Delighted to say that myself and Tom are joined today by Richard Patrick, who is a jockey, the professional jockey who's having an outstanding couple of seasons, really. Going really well, Richard, and appreciate you joining us here today, and hopefully we'll pose some questions and get some answers that our viewers are obviously interested in. But how's things in general, mate? You all well?
Yeah, good, thank you. Cheers for having me. Say a couple of good seasons. Well, so I've been very lucky, managed to ride out my claim and still riding winners and touch wood, staying injury free. So that's what it's all about.
Good. And you've got some good relationships, haven't you, with a lot of I suppose localish trainers to where you live as well, isn't it? So it's handy that, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. It's a great. I've been with Kerry Lee from the very start. And then now recently picked up riding a lot for Clive Baldry-Brooks and been very lucky to ride for Tom Lacey, Matt Shepherd and Michael Scudamore when he was down here. But yeah, a lot of Herefordshire-based trainers, and they keep me very busy.
Yeah, well, good. We'll probe into much more about your sort of relationships with those people shortly when we go in and talk about you and your career. But the idea of this whole podcast, this series, is to, I suppose, unearth a little bit more about the man or woman behind the horse, because in many ways the relationship between the social side of things and the relationship between the people that run this sport and actually make it happen on a day-to-day basis is not something everybody's kind of able to get the information from. And I think that it makes a really good podcast series to sort of ask you these questions. So again, thank you for joining us. And Tom, I know, just want to bring you in here a little bit. I know, obviously, both of your brothers were going down the jockey route before that kind of happened. Yourself, that wasn't really ever your appeal, was it?
No, I used to like a lot of show jumping and whatnot. Never ever had the bottle to ride race horses. I think it's definitely a confidence thing, and if you haven't got it, then you're wasting your time. So.
But one thing I know you do is you respect these guys immensely.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, they risk their lives day in, day out, don't they, for our entertainment. So you have to have huge respect for them, and they obviously get a lot of stick when they don't necessarily give a horse a good ride. But I'd like to see these sofa jockeys get on and do it themselves, you know?
Yeah, there are plenty of sofa jockeys out there. We've all been one at one point. But what I will say is the guys that really do it are really unbelievable athletes and just incredibly brave to do it on a day-to-day basis.
You seen like O'Shea Murphy come out the other day, didn't you? Having to give an explanation of why Old Rogan got beat at Newcastle. Thought fair play for him to come out and doing that, but at the same time, like no matter how good you are, you're still going to make mistakes. So.
I'm not sure whether it set a bad precedence there myself personally, but that's enough for another day. Okay, Richard, so let's kick in and talk a bit about you, mate, and find out more about your background and I suppose if I start with first and foremost is how did you become a national hunt jockey, and where did that love or that inspiration to do it come from?
It's a bit of a weird situation. So I'm the only one in my whole family that rides a horse.
Okay.
And I come from a farming background. And my mum and dad, I grew up in Pembrokeshire. Dad was farming, and mum had a B&B and kept very busy. And my mum actually went to school with Karen Bowen.
Okay.
When she lived in Herefordshire, and
she's a character, isn't she?
Yeah, she's brilliant. And they met each other in Haverfordwest and didn't realise they'd both moved down here and down to Pembrokeshire, and then got talking and realised I was the same age as John James and Nicky Bowen, and I just started riding a pony at the time and things like that. So I started going over there when I was probably about 9 or 10, and then just started riding out. Got the bug, going racing with them every weekend or riding out every chance I could and trying to bunk off school to go ride out because it was a Tuesday and a work day and stuff like that. And that's how I got into it, and just got the bug and fell in love with racing and race riding.
Were you always national hunt like favouring all the flat? Was there ever a...
it was, because obviously being in Peters with National Hunt Yard, that's what it was all about. And we were very lucky when I was there. Peter would fly in the summer. We probably had 50 horses in, and you'd had like the likes of Jamie Moore and Richard Johnson riding them, and McCoy when he was available, and Tom O'Brien. The lads like that. It was just being a 11-year-old kid starting to ride out with them. There's nothing else I wanted to do.
Okay, Tom.
Yeah, like, I suppose we've seen a lot of jockeys, haven't we, struggle to continue riding, day in, day out after losing their claim. Were you always kind of confident that wasn't going to be the case for yourself? Obviously, you've lost your claim and you're still riding at the top race courses every day, against other top jockeys. Were you always confident that would be the case?
Yeah, I was very conscious not to fly through my claim really quickly, because you can go for your claim in a season or 2 seasons and riding for everybody in every boys race, and then once you haven't got your claim, they won't use you anymore. It's just like you've got to build relations. So I was very conscious of that. So I had Kerry, who was fantastic and still is, gives me plenty of rides, and I was just picking up a few for outside and for Henry Daly and a few other people around Herefordshire, and I was just looked after the people that looked after me, and I think it stood me in good stead since.
Good stuff.
Built up relationships and it's carried on.
Yeah. Good. I think relationships in what you do is massive, isn't it?
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
If you didn't continue those, and I think being a good person, you can spot a good person racing by a mile, and the opposite as well, may I say. But okay, so if you weren't going to be a jockey, and that wasn't meant to be the career, did you have anything else in mind lined up, or was it always I'm going to be a national hunt jockey?
I think it always was when I was younger. Yeah, so obviously Dad was farming and my brother was mad keen on the farming side, and I just had no interest. They'd forced me to come out and help with the sheep and calf and stuff, and it was just a bit of an uphill struggle. So it was basically just racing, and if it wasn't riding, it'd probably be something in the industry. But I was just a bit mad about riding horses when I was younger.
And you have to be a little bit mad anyway, as we've sort of talked about as well.
Obviously you're a professional now, Richard. What sort of advice would you give to young sort of aspiring jockeys who hope to make it, in the professional ranks?
I think obviously this is the classic thing of working hard and keeping your head down, but I think the biggest thing I found was keeping yourself in the best possible company. If you want to be the best of what you can be around the best, because they've just got a different mindset and it just happens, and that's why I was so lucky in Peter's growing up. You can see now Sean Bowen's about to be champion jockey. James has had an unbelievable season.
I'm pleased are you for him, because given you've just talked about growing up with those boys, and they're both doing outstanding as well as yourself, but Sean's managed to land a real top job, and he's about to become crowned National Hunt Jockey of the season. But his ride yesterday, I mean, did you see how emotional he was after?
Yeah, it was massive. And I was actually in Chepstow yesterday, and the whole waiting room just erupted. Him when he was jumping the last, so all delighted for him. And exactly. And as we grow up together, and I was just delighted to see him win that race yesterday and win the championship. And also great for Becky Curtis to be back on the map. Well, she hasn't. She's always been on the map, but back to where she was a few years ago.
She was very emotional as well, wasn't she? As she would be winning the Irish Grand National. It's not as if it's you've just won something. You've won one of the biggest races of the calendar year.
Sean's always been top class. I remember when we were younger, there was 5 or 6 ponies at Peter's at the time, and the boys, and we used to have races up the Gallop from the 2 furlong marker to the end, and each race we'd all swap round. And Sean just seemed to keep winning the races, and whichever pony it was. I don't know how he did it, but he's always been very good.
Yeah, well, probably shows he's taken that pony racing days into now. Okay, so
who was your sort of biggest inspiration growing up?
I think Richard Johnson was probably my biggest inspiration, because Mum and Dad knew his parents through farming and things like that, and obviously he was just one of the icons, wasn't he? I think everybody looked up to him, and it's just his work ethic and how level-headed he was every single day. And it didn't matter.
Such a nice bloke as well, isn't he? Go with it. So
it didn't matter if he was Cheltenham or Sedgefield. He'd still give it 110%.
They were a kind of different breed then, though, weren't they? I mean, I just thinking back there to you talk Richard Johnson. He's got to be one of the most unluckiest sportsmen in the world, hasn't he? To be around when he was a golden era of jockeys anyway, but to finish second to AP McCoy, what was it, 18 times?
I think it was.
And then he got 2 seasons when McCoy sort of disappeared, and I think he thought, I've got to make hay with the sunshine.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think McCoy always said that he was as good as he was because Richard Johnson was right behind him pushing him.
Yeah.
And that's a very good point. You have to be on... For McCoy wanting to be the best, he knew lads like Tom Skew, Jason Maguire, Richard Johnson were right behind him. He had to be. You couldn't miss a day, could he?
Did you look up to Richard in just the riding way, or did you watch what he was like, or did you see what he was like outside of the weighing room? And
Yeah,
because there's a real professional element to the sport now, isn't there? Whereas
very much so.
I'm not sure how professional quite they were maybe 30 years ago. Probably not as professional, given
No, I think
where we're at.
I think the whole weighing room and like the professional side has changed massively from it was, as I say, like 30 years ago. But I think McCoy and Richard Johnson and a couple of others probably changed the sport for taking how professional it was. It wasn't just like the top jockeys were riding 7 days a week, not just on weekends.
Yeah.
And I think they changed that, and obviously now like fitter and nutrition and everything has changed some more, and it's much more professional. Just probably behind more aware and probably taught better from a younger age, really, I'd say.
Okay. Good. There's a good bit of knowledge that we would never have known otherwise by doing this sort of thing, so thank you for sharing all of that. I suppose I want to move on a little bit and talk a little bit about racing in general at this moment in time. From a jockey's point of view, where do you see British racing at this moment in time? Like, in a good place, a bad place? I mean, by all means, I know it's your career and stuff, so I'm conscious not to put you in any position, but I suppose from a perception point of view, because there seems to be a perception of racing from the outside anyway, like, oh, it's in doom and gloom. How do you see it from a jockey's angle?
Yeah, you hear like plenty of doom and gloom, and it's probably not a great place, but there's still full fields. There's like racing happening every day. We've probably got just too much racing, if anything, but we've still got a lot of horses running, and and a lot of jobs going, and I think it's not quite as bad as people think. It is all right at the minute. Like, it's fantastic at the minute with what's going on with Mullins and Skelton. It's probably bringing racing into the fore, and people are getting very interested and very behind it. And I do hope Skelton do it. It'd be fantastic because they've worked so hard all season. And there's just bits and pieces. Like, I think things can be done better about maybe media and commentators not mentioning how much horses cost all the time. Like, I think if you were a big owner wanting to go to the sales and you were willing to spend big money, like, I think one of the best things that happened for racing this year was Caldwell Potter coming out to do as well as he did, because all the hype about how much he cost, and they were like, oh, he's been a disappointment. Well, he hasn't. He's won a big handicap Cheltenham and won a graded race. And if you were a big owner wanting and spending a lot of money, why would you want to when you just got to get people like, oh, it's because he cost a lot of money, he's been disappointing.
Yeah, it's not all about the financial.
No, and they should just talk about the performances. And I think that's one thing that would be better.
Do you think enough is made of the actual horse in its performance?
Yeah.
Like, enough sort of jubilation about it. Like, you get the aftermath straight after a race, for example. But actually, like, the sport creates superstars in its own way, doesn't it? Time after time.
Yeah,
you know?
It does. Yeah, exactly. And it always works out in the end. It might not just happen straight away. And like, we are working with animals at the end of the day. We can't just because they cost a lot of money or they got a great pedigree or they're from a great stable doesn't mean it's going to happen straight away. Some of them just needs a bit of time, and they can't all be superstars. But we say between trainers and jockeys, we're all trying to achieve the same thing.
Okay.
If you could change one thing about horse racing, obviously from your experiences as a jockey, what would it be and why?
That's put you on the spot a little bit. That's a big question, but
I think increased prize money would be the biggest help.
Yeah.
But like, I know that's a really like everyone says it, but it's true. Like, I think prize money has been exactly the same. I don't actually think the summer plate is probably a good one to say about Richard. Market raising, yeah. Okay. I think I remember Richard Lee saying he won it for the first ever time it happened back in the day, and I think it's about $5,000 more than it was then than it is now.
That's crazy, isn't it? Really?
It's just not
like
acceptable, is it?
No, and like everything else has gone up, bar prize money.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why a lot of English owners are going to Ireland, because probably trainer fees are a bit cheaper, the prize money is more. Why would you have it the other way around here?
I think everything to do with horse racing is so expensive as well, isn't it? Just from training them in the yard, from shavings to feed and everything, and actually getting them on the day, sort of entry fees and whatever else. But yeah, I think the money for what you boys do, like risking your lives day in, day out, is just definitely not good enough, is it?
No, I don't think
I
so.
think definitely from a British perspective, though, Richard's right. I mean, over in Ireland, you see a maiden hurdle is paying €8,500-9,000.
Yeah.
And that maiden hurdle, you see a maiden hurdle was probably one run tonight at Hereford, probably be about £3,000.
£3,000, yeah.
Yeah, and that in itself is like, there's going to entice the big owners are going to be going that way, because why wouldn't you?
I say if you went through every horse in the UK that ran, that actually paid their way from the start of the season to the end, I'd say there would be about a handful in all the horses in the UK.
Yeah, it's not good enough,
And
is it?
it's not good enough, no. And why would you want to go again?
Yeah.
But I think, it's, as I say, it's not all doom and gloom. It's just, I think if prize money was better, everything else would be better.
Okay, good, love that. But obviously we've got a social media presence, Richard. Social media has become a big thing in horse racing. I don't know what your level of interaction is with people in social media, but do you think it's a good thing the way it's developing, or what's your kind of feelings and thoughts on social media in horse racing?
I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to open up, to know behind the scenes and what happens, and get everybody into it, and probably get away from the whole aristocracy type thing of that's how it is. Like, racing is everywhere for everyone's sport. Like, you can get involved in a syndicate for very cheap, or you can go big by yourself. And I think opening it right up brings probably a lot more people that didn't realise they could get into it, which they can.
Yeah.
And I know you open yourself up to a lot more criticism when things go wrong, but I think you just got to take that, and it's the same as footballers or any other sportsman. They do get it, but I think it's very good to open it all up to show people what we do. And also how well we do it as well, like from a professional side of how well the horses get looked after, and like how much goes into it. There's probably a lot of things that people don't realise. Yeah,
definitely. And obviously, apart from our good selves, who we're clearly going to be your favourite social media channel, goes without saying, obviously. Are there any that you particularly like? Any others that you keep an eye on when you watch as a jockey? I think people would be interested to know what would a jockey sort of look at on socials.
I suppose with what ITV have done and things like that, I thought that was very good. Just gets everybody into it a lot more, and behind the scenes, and I like it when they use the head cams of the races.
That's awesome. That is,
It really gets people an insight of how, especially those big handicaps, where when you hear people say I didn't see that hurdle, and they think it's just one of those things, but generally you don't see anything.
Just comes.
I remember I rode in the Lanzarote hurdle a couple of years ago, and there was I was on the Mere Lion, and I came around the bend, and it was so tight I don't think his feet were on the floor for about 4 strides. I think we got carried around the bend.
What, because of the way the bend was?
Because the bend it got so tight, and he's like...
It's like Kempton, isn't it?
And Kempton. It's very tight, but I think that's a great insight.
Okay, listen, we're all human, and we make mistakes. Obviously, a jockey's no different than that, and I think that you'd probably be first, just like everybody would be, to admit in a race you've made the odd mistake here and there. I'm interested to know, if you can share, what sort of... Do you get some abuse online? What sort of abuse have you had in the past? And how do you deal with that? Because mentally, I think, look, it's something we've had to deal with, okay? So you can put a video out there, this video will go out there, there'll undoubtedly be someone who says, what a load of you-know-what. So, and sometimes they'll say some pretty vile things. I've read, personally, some other jockeys' messages, and they are absolutely brutal. What have you had, and how have you kind of dealt with them in the past?
Yeah, we all get it, and some of them are pretty horrific. And I used to try and kid myself that I was good at taking it, but when I first started, I was awful at taking it, because I was trying to make a name for myself. I was trying really hard to building a business and trying to please everybody. And then when somebody gives you a load of abuse and calls you completely useless and whatever, and I used to take it really to heart. And
how did it affect you? Can you talk a bit about how that affected you? Like, did it make you think more about the next time you rode a horse, or did it?
Yeah, I think it does. Like, especially when I was as I say, when I was younger, it was conditional, and probably took everything to heart. And instead of listening to the people I should have been, I was just listening to everything. And yeah, it was probably quite hard. And as I've got older, I've just like, you know who to listen to and who not to, and it doesn't bother me anymore. But as I say, it used to. I think I'm doing something wrong all the time, and I try and change it. But I don't know. As I said, taking abuse off somebody that's never ridden a horse and probably has lost their £5, and I really shouldn't worry about it.
Exactly.
Like you're all human, and it's used to.
Yeah, I think it's disgusting personally. So if you're someone who's listening to this and you ever do that, you need to have a long word with yourself, because we get it. And I have to say, like I said, when we first started this, you know, we're talking about horses. We obviously talk about them and tip them up as well in some aspects, and like you get people say you're useless. Like you can give them a 20-1 winner one day, the next they lose on a 7-4 shot that you've said, and it's like what?
I think it's harder for worse for trainers in a way, because like we obviously all on social media we can get in touch with, but as jockeys none of us have got a website, but all trainers have a website and there'd be contact details on there, and like it's getting a message on Instagram or Twitter or whatever like that is nowhere near like answering the phone to somebody and listening to it down the phone. Because like as a trainer you're always answering the phone because it could be a potential owner. You never know, but I think that's worse.
I think obviously my brother Sam, he's a trainer, Sam Drinkwater, and every time he'll have a loser, you just know for a fact he's going to have an anonymous message from someone giving him a hurl of abuse, and I think he's just learnt now just to kind of humour it in a way and just know that it's part of what we do. But it actually cracks me up sometimes, some of the things they say. If you was taken to heart, you probably wouldn't do your job, but you just literally got to kick on and do what you believe in still, and get them winners coming in.
I'm sure he wouldn't mind me telling this, but we had a horse that ran up at Hexham one day, and me and Sam were there. Did you come or not?
I wasn't there that day.
And we were sat watching the horse, and he was well backed, and we thought he would go and win, to be honest. And he clattered, I think it was 2 or 3 out, and he lost 10 lengths and ended up at that point. He only got beaten by about 3 or 4 lengths or whatever it was. And Sam stood right next to me. We were actually half delighted because we were like, oh, he's run a good race there.
Yeah.
The phone starts ringing, and he just put it on loudspeaker, and it was just some randoms shouting, you, this, that, the other. And then he starts getting voice notes. And to be fair to Sam, it just shows that I think what you said is absolutely spot on. Eventually, you've just got to go, this doesn't really mean anything to me. And he just started laughing, and he was just like, do you want your £5 back, mate? Or something like that. And it was just like, it was just good fun. And I just thought, if people are going to go out there and do that,
I think if it's someone you knew and you respected, you probably take a bit more to heart. But when it's some absolute randomer, that I just think you've got to kick on, haven't you?
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Has there ever been a day, Richard, where things aren't quite going well, or you get negative comments in the press, that you've ever thought about maybe a different career path, or?
Never really like different career path. You've always like you get to a point of like, okay, every sportsman has it. Like you have your bad days, and like you can't seem to do anything right. Like the gaps don't come to you, and like when it is on your side, everything's so easy. But I suppose you just think, oh, why am I doing this for? Like traveling up and down the country for no reason, and like just nothing's going right, and you feel like you can't do it anymore. But and then one day. And then you go to work the next day and just ride a winner, and it's like, oh, I can do it. It's mad. And sometimes you just got to bring it right back. And I think like when you're on a bit of a bad run or things aren't going right, try and do like 3 or 4 real simple things right before you try and do something too difficult. Just get it all back on track, and I think that's a good way of doing it.
It's a confidence job, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
And not that I want to make this about Constitution Hill, but I think in many ways that's where that relationship between, and Nico Opie's well, by the way, because he's obviously been taken hospital, but that's where that sort of relationship I think has been knocked a lot in the press. So fingers crossed he can make, I'm sure when he crosses the line next time he'll get one of them from people. Look, Richard, there's something that's been big in the press in the last, ITV pretty much dedicated a lot of their morning shows to it recently, was the facilities for jockeys in the way. Overall, are they up to standard, and we're talking about a few race courses that are not? Or is it actually across the board there needs to be something done here, guys? I'm probably not the best person to ask about it, because I'm
pretty happy with whatever was on offer, really, because like I spent years pointing, getting changed in the marquee set. But at the same time, it does need to be to a certain level. It has to be right. So a lot of race courses have done a very good job of it, and others, they do need to catch up and need to do something about it. But a lot of race courses can only work with what they've got. I know, like Kelso, it's a great place. I love riding there, and it's so old and they can't do anything about it because bar knocking it down and rebuilding it.
Which, by the looks of it, I guess is a listed building anyway.
Yeah, like there's a fire in the corner, and it's proper old, but like they can't do anything about it. It's just they can only work with what they've got.
Does that make it kind of quirky and kind of nice to visit, though?
Yeah, I quite like it. I think it's very different, and as long as it's dry and warm, and we've got warm showers, I'm pretty happy with what we've got.
So why has it taken such a knock in the press? I mean, obviously, in fairness to, I think it was Adele Mulrennan and Megan Nichols that were on the ITV show, and they were sort of really going in on it.
Yeah, well, I can't talk for the female side of it because obviously I've never been in their side, but by what they're saying and the pictures I've seen, I think their side does need catching up.
That's what I was going to point out. Is this more of a male-female thing than it is?
It probably is. Like
anything.
You see it. They're all the male change room is a massive, great big room, and then the females obviously get a smaller one. But like I suppose they put all their time and effort into the male changing room, and now there's so many female riders, which is brilliant. Like I totally believe that it's just a jockey. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. We're all just jockeys. We're all doing the same sport, so like they should have the same facilities.
But there is a tough balancing act here, isn't there? Because, and I would say this with the greatest deal of respect, there are the numbers of male riders compared to female riders are so vast. Is unless you're gearing towards knowledge that I don't know that the next 50 jockeys that are going to turn professional, 20 of them are going to be female.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's only 3 or 4 that are going to turn female, these places, are they going to spend thousands? Have they got the budget to spend thousands and build new areas for them? It's a really tricky managed situation, isn't it?
Very tricky. And like I say, that they're probably up against it on the money side, but I just think they have to be to a certain standard, and they're not asking for 5-star hotels.
No, I get that.
Just to a sort of standard where it's okay, sort of thing. We are in the day and age we're in.
Okay, cool. So we've talked about you in the saddle quite a bit and everything. So what does life for you look like outside of it? Are you gearing towards a new career outside of it? I know you're not long in it, if you know what I mean. But have you already thought about that side of things? Do you see yourself as a trainer one day or anything like that? Where do you see yourself?
No, I definitely won't be training. That's definitely not for me. I like the thought of training and like keeping them right. Very interested in, like I love that side of it, but I wouldn't personally want to be training in my own name with how difficult it is. But after it, I suppose I haven't really thought a whole lot of it. Of just trying to keep busy riding. Hopefully, got a few years left to keep going, and I suppose do plenty of other jobs outside when I'm not racing. I help Ed Bailey with who's a bit of, like with a few horses there and a bit of farming, and do a lot with Clive Watford Brooks at the minute, helping out there whenever I can. So yeah, whenever I'm not racing, I'm always keeping myself busy.
One of the biggest changes in a lot of professional sports, and if I talk about football, professional football for example, is there's a lot of investment that's been spent on, I suppose, helping and guiding people from their careers in the saddle, as a footballer, out to being a footballer. And I just wondered, have you ever heard, is anybody talking about that in racing? Is that something that's happening?
There is a scheme called Jets that help you, and they help you. Well, they help you with everything really, and they do a great job, a brilliant job for jockeys that retired, get them into new things. I know there's like lads that have done their HGV through them. I think Michael Nolan's done a lot with them at the minute. I think there's a lot of lads that have done a lot of good things through Jets. I think Alan Johns has actually done a lot of his media stuff through Jets.
Okay.
So he had it all ready to go. ready to go for when you were retired. So yeah, they do a very good job.
He's a good lad as well.
Yeah, he's a top lad.
Yeah, and enjoy his content. There's a lot of you, isn't there?
There is a lot of us. Yeah.
Make up a good set. Tom?
Is there a specific race you'd like to win, or target sort of a number of winners you'd like to ride before you retire?
Yeah, it was for a race that I'd like to win. I'd love to win a Grade 1 of any sort.
Yeah.
I think I've won 5 Grade 2s. Just
you're knocking on the door. It's pretty good going.
Yeah, I need to break through the next door. I think that's more important to me than what race it is. I don't mind if it's a 2-mile hurdle race or a 3-mile chase.
Yes,
just a Grade 1 would be great, and
good stuff.
That'd be ideal.
It is little Nemean Lion, maybe the horse to do it for you. Do you think? He's got a Grade 1 in him?
I hope so. Like I say, I think he's won 3 Grade 2s now. Yeah, he's been brilliant. He's obviously a very, very good. He's been brilliant. I think I've won 7 races on him, and I think he finds the Grade 1s just a little bit step too far. But I think if he keeps running and keeps knocking on the door,
one might fall apart for him. Yeah,
great one to fall apart from.
Okay, good. Let me just have a little look. What do we want to talk to you about? I suppose we've covered a lot of the stuff that we wanted to go into detail with you, but what I do want to do with you, Richard, is do a bit of a quick fire question round with you, if that's all right. So we'll try and ask these as quickly as we possibly can, and then you give us answers as quickly as you possibly can. Favourite sport apart from horse racing?
Or rugby.
Okay. Your best friend in racing?
Probably Stan Shepherd.
Okay. The best horse you've ever ridden?
Probably Nemean Lion.
Okay. The one horse you would have loved to have ridden in your whole career so far?
One I haven't ridden.
The one you haven't, but you would have loved to. That's during your time.
Yeah. I do. I'd quite like to have had a go on Special Tiara when he was going around in his champion chases. He looked pretty cool. Wicked.
I don't think many people would have thought that was going. The best ride you've ever given a horse, and that doesn't need to be in any particular race. It can be just because you thought you succeeded in that race.
I don't know. It's probably. I think it was a conditional jockey race around Newton Abbott, a 3-mile 2. I rode one for Tim Vaughan, and she was about 14.2. She was tiny, and managed to get it round, and managed to get her up on the line, and she probably shouldn't have won, but managed to get a win out of it that day.
Did you get some kick out of that?
Yeah, I got some kick out of it.
Yeah, good. Do you like football?
Not a fan.
Okay, so who's your rugby team then?
Obviously, well, it's bad to say, but obviously follow Wales a lot, but that's a bit boring at the minute. Used to follow Blues quite a lot, but then they've folded, so that hasn't gone well. So it's all falling apart.
Well, we say horse racing is in a bad place. Rugby is in a terrible place, isn't it? Yeah.
Awful.
Okay. Biggest day on the track so far for you in your career?
I think winning the Paddy Power Gold Cup on Happy Diva was the biggest day.
Okay. Yeah, it's a big race in the season, that, isn't it? Skelton or Mullins for the title? Who are you going with?
I think it'll be hard, but I'd love to see Skelton win.
Okay. Best race course in the country, in your opinion? That can be in England, Scotland, Wales. We'll leave the Irish because they'll win everything, so we don't want them to have win everything.
I think everyone says it, but I love riding on Cheltenham.
Cheltenham, okay.
Good striker around there.
Good. Constitution Hill versus Lossiemouth in a champion hurdle. Both stand up, both run their race. Who wins?
Constitution Hill.
A jockey to follow other than yourself for next season?
I think Jack Tudor could have a huge season next year.
Okay, cool. Trainer to follow outside of the big boys next season?
I don't know. There's so many good trainers.
I'd name one you want to ride some horses for next season. You might get the ride.
I'll come back to that one.
Okay, we'll go back to that one in a second. To win the Gold Cup or the Grand National?
Gold Cup.
Okay. You get the opportunity to have 3 sporting greats at a dinner table, either past or present, any era. Who are you choosing?
Warren Gatland.
Okay.
That'd be quite fun. Freddie Flintoff.
Legend, yeah.
Yeah. And I think Somebody from racing legend. Done 2. Probably Nicky Henderson. I say he'd be quite good fun.
I'd say there'd be some drink round that table.
Yeah.
For those 3.
Yeah.
Okay, the best horse, in your opinion, in your lifetime that you've seen?
Gotta be quite a star, isn't it?
Faheen.
Like he just
Faheen
did
the
it all,
machine.
didn't it? Like
He did, to be fair.
2 miles, 3 miles, fences, hurdles.
Yeah, he was a pretty special horse, and he's got a race named after him, so you have to be great to have a race named after you. Okay, so here's the dilemma. You've got a 10-footer at the Masters on the final hole to win it.
Yeah.
You've got a penalty, let's use it as a 3-point penalty kick to win the Rugby World Cup final, or you have to hit a 6 to win the Ashes for England. Which one would you choose, and why for yourself?
Oh. If it was a 4, I'd probably go cricket. I'd probably go for 6 for cricket. That'd be unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'd be like Ben Stokes for an hour, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Or a while, actually.
You have to be a cricket fan to know it, but honestly, that particular that one over is just one of the best moments in cricket history, isn't it? Brilliant, Richard. This has been good fun. I've enjoyed it, and I do appreciate how honest and open you've been with us and give us some brilliant answers. But I'm going to go. What was the one question we've got to go back to?
The trainer.
Yeah, give us one trainer to follow for the next season.
I was thinking about it. I think Philip Hobson-Johnson-White could go very well next season. They had a lot of good young horses come through this year.
Yeah.
And it'd just be fantastic to see that camp back at the top table, which they've been sort of struggling with.
Well, the name Hobbs and Johnson going back some years, as you rightly pointed out, used to be a winner on every card, more or less, didn't it? So, yeah, that would be great. Like I said, brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
Really appreciate it, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
And we'll look forward to our next jockey series of inside and out of the saddle. Like I said, this has been great fun, and we wish you the very best for the rest of this season and on to next. Hopefully we inspire you to go on and have an outstanding season next season as well, mate. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Yes.
Thank you very much for having me.